Good morning. How are you today?
Good.
Good.
Kind of gray out there.
Yes, it is. So here we are, the next chapter in Growing With, where we're talking for the second week in a row on faithing.
Now we're on faithing together.
Yes, faithing together.
And I said to Scott earlier that the first line of this talks about if you grew up in a church-going family, was there ever a time basically that you faked sleep? And I was, yes, I definitely never got away with it, but I faked sleep. You grew up in a church-going family, a church-working family.
I was told that if you sleep under my roof, you will go to church no matter what you did on Saturday night. You will get up on Sunday morning and go to church. So I wasn't forced to go to Sunday school so much as I had to at least be in church. So that was kind of a rule that I knew that I couldn't fight against. But today is different. I understand. And I think most parents desire for their kids to want to go to church. Right. And I would encourage parents not to simply cave if they just don't feel like going to church. But we'll talk about that more in this video. Yep. So the first thing that stood out to me in this book, they say, when families engage with faith communities, there are more opportunities for intergenerational support, spiritual modeling, and the development of religious practices. Churches remain faithing greenhouses for teenagers where intergenerational relationships are cultivated, conversations about God are sparked, and faith development is extended into their real lives. So I would really strongly agree with this, that the church is a great place for intergenerational relationships. I know for me, I have 3 kids that are already, actually all 4 of my kids are out of the house. And my oldest, even though he goes to another church, just recently got together with someone from here at our church who was a small group leader for him as he was growing up and going through high school. So I know that they still have some of these connections, these of intergenerational relationships that still continue to impact them.
Yeah, and never underestimate the relationship that your Sunday school teacher or your youth leader can have with your child, with your your elementary child, your grade school child, your high school or your middle schooler, just because that person comes alongside everything that you've been teaching your child. And it just kind of, sometimes when kids hear things from someone that's not their parent, they're more inclined to believe it. Yes, I like the line in here that said, in the book, our hope is that your church can be a supportive community to both you and your growing kids. So we know that that's our role, not just to support the kids, but to support the parents also, which is the leaders of our church.
Right. Right, and they also reference sticky faith, where they talk about how with teenagers, when we think of church ministry, we often think that if we had 1 adult for every 5 kids, that would be ideal. But really what they point out is that we have 5 adults investing in the life of 1 teenager. And that doesn't mean that we have 5 adult small group leaders for every 1 teenager we have, but through the course of their life, that they have at least 5 adults that have poured into their life, whether it's a grandparent, a coach, a Sunday school teacher, a small group leader, a confirmation mentor, a youth pastor, a children's ministry director, the senior pastor, that they're making these contacts, and it's so helpful to know and rely on that these other adults are going to support you as a parent and affirm you as a parent, but also, more importantly, affirm the faith and encourage them to continue in the faith.
Right, and something, after when you said that, sparked something in my head is that, when Scott has events for the youth, I loved coming to them when my kids came through. I still love coming to them. But I loved coming through them and being the driver to some of your events and doing some of those things, because I didn't necessarily take my kids in my car. I always seemed to have my girls' friends that were the boys. I always had them in my Honda Pilot. And when you can build the relationship with those kids that are not your own kids, opens up a whole new world of
Oh, yeah.
information and, you know, because you won't know everything your child's doing, but put a bunch of the opposite sex kids in your vehicle and you'll know almost everything.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for an hour or two on the way to some of your
To
retreats
camp
and
or
things like
something,
that.
or
So
retreat, yeah.
even when confirmation kicks back up, to be a mentor to these kids is just so rewarding. It can be, I think, more rewarding for the adults sometimes than for the kids.
That's true too. I mean, I think that there's a benefit going both ways of adults. I see this with confirmation mentors, that a lot of times the adults get even more out of the process of building a relationship with the teenager and coming to confirmation and learning together, that feeds their faith as well. So all these relationships, really, it's a give and take. It's not necessarily adults just doing all the pouring into the child's life, but a lot of times this is what discipleship is like, is that is you're ministering to somebody and pouring into their life, and in many ways they're pouring back into your life too.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
important. So another part of the book, it said, accept that the faith community they join may be different from yours and that they may attend it for different reasons than you attend yours. So understand, as your kid is growing up, there's a lot of good conversation here about what happens when they get into their early 20s and even in their late teens and they drift away. And there's a lot of research that says that there is a lot of drifting away. But to encourage them to make a connection, and they may, like I've seen with my kids, they may connect to a church that's different, that's not, you know, we come from a United Methodist church, and that's what they were raised in, but they might find another church that's maybe a little bit more conservative or maybe a little bit more progressive than I brought them up in, and just to encourage them. I know, like for when my girls went to college, whenever I went up for a parents' weekend or a dad's weekend, I would make it a point to find a church and take them to church on Sunday morning. And that didn't mean that they went every Sunday that I wasn't there. I know they didn't. But at least they made that contact, that connection of here's a safe place for me if I need it. Here's a church I can go to. And I know they went a couple times, but not regularly. But at least I was trying to encourage connections whenever I could, whenever I would go visit my kids at college.
Yeah, and that they need to always be seeking their own faith community once they're kind of out of the house and out of your radius for, obviously we'd love them all to come back to Epiphany, but
Right.
you know, kids move away and change, and maybe they want to pick a church with a rock and roll band and it's all contemporary, or maybe they want more of the traditional elements that they grew up with, and maybe that will feel more like home to them.
Right.
But we always want to encourage them to be seeking and looking, and there's more than one church out there. Not for Scott or I.
No.
But anyway.
And then one final thought from my reading was value belonging before belief. Relational connection more than religious instruction keeps kids connected to faith. So the relationships are so important. It's very rare that a kid makes a connection because of, it's a Reformed church or a Methodist church or a Catholic church. They will go where they make connections and relationships. So it's important for us to encourage them to go to find a place that they feel connected, and they feel. I know for our church, a lot of our teenagers, when they graduate from high school, they go away. We don't live near a college campus where we can have a vibrant college ministry. A lot of the good college ministries are downtown. So in the singles programs are churches downtown too. So I'm encouraging my kids to see where they fit in, where they belong, where they can make connections and relationships. And I may have my preferences, but I want to encourage them to find where they connect.
Yeah. And my kind of last comment is that it's important for the parents to also make relationships in church. If your kids at a young age see you have friends at church, they'll be more inclined to have friends at church. And I can't tell you the benefit that's been to my kids growing up, especially my girls, my son was in Scott's first youth group coming through. That was his first class,
The
but my
old
girls,
school, yes.
yes, but my girls came through later, and you know, through my friendships with people at church, you know, they were friends with those kids, and there's just such a benefit to the relationships we all establish.
And always be a church that leaves the door open. Never guilt a kid because they drifted away for a little while, or they stopped coming. I know early on in ministry it was easy to kind of, you know, I don't know, throw shame or guilt at a kid, like, you know, what's the deal, what's going on? But that's just not a good tactic to take. You know, always leave the door open, always let them know that this is a safe place, that they're...
And we love seeing them.
What's that?
Yeah, and we love seeing them.
And we love seeing them, yeah, that they're always welcome here. Many times I have seen kids come back, and sometimes they have their own reasons, you know, or, oh, I just wasn't sure if I was allowed to come back. Of course you're allowed to come back.
Yeah.
We love you. We care about you. The door's always open.
Wide open.
Yeah. Always keep opportunities wide open. And always be inviting. Always be making those connections, and never let someone just drop off the radar. But let them know that you're thinking about them and caring about them, and that the door's open for them. Without any guilt or shame, they're always welcome back in love.
In love.
So with that,
With that.
until next week, we'll see you later.